What's going on, everybody? How's it going, Discord community? Welcome back to another episode 6 of Behind the Bench. I'm your host, Neil, Irish Flyers Collector, here on Discord and on the Instagram. I hope everyone is doing well. I've had a pretty good week last week and have a fun story to share that you may have seen on my Instagram. But if you didn't, I will definitely want to share it here and talk about it, but I'll wait to do that at the end during my PC spotlight. So more on that later. A brief little additional note to share that ties into last week's episode where I showed how to create checklists in Excel. Fellow Discorder Postmaster Scott shared a cool tip that might help you get started on a player checklist from scratch. I wasn't even aware of it. I didn't know it existed. Apparently, with a Beckett player-only subscription, so a subscription, it will cost you some money, but you can view the player's entire checklist, and it has dollar values on it. He showed me a screenshot of that. For it has for most of the cards. Then all you'd have to do is kind of copy and paste that list into an Excel file, and then you can kind of do your edits. But so he shared some tips about how to do it in the Behind the Bench channel with some screenshots. So thank you for that, Scott. I'm going to check it out for myself for sure, see how to do it, and see how fast it is. Hopefully, I won't cry too much when I think about all the hours and time that I've spent creating my checklists, copying from TCDB. But it definitely seems like a viable, inexpensive way to kind of start a player checklist from scratch. So I know that I made a joke when Scott shared this info that it's probably for the best, I suppose, that I spent a lot of time doing that, because that meant I had much less time available for shopping for cards. So that's probably for the best, but either way, it seems like a great option. So check it out. Postmaster Scott did share some screenshots about how to get to it. So he went over and above when I asked him how to find it. So check it out. Might be helpful for you. So that's kind of a little update, new news on I think the Kelseys have that trademarked. So an update on another tip on how to create a player checklist for yourself. So for today's episode, I wanted to jump into sharing some more tips of some things that I've learned over the years. This is one in particular about a particular subject here. So you may have heard of the guys on the Gong Show kind of refer to me as their marker guy or their pen expert or whatever. It's not really something that I did on purpose. It's just something that I put time and effort into, wanting to get it right with regards to in-person autos. That can be a scary topic. If you think about it, or if you don't think about it, I should say, it's not as simple as it might seem because of some things you might not consider. I have learned a lot of my information from a member on Instagram, Sal, oh gosh, I should have looked this up. STM, I forget what it is, but I'll put it in the my information when I post this episode. But he is like a professional at getting autographs and setting up events with athletes. So he has a lot of experience. I took a lot of things that he shared in the past and practiced them, and now it's just kind of second nature for me. So I thought I'd share that with you guys. It is a hot topic sometimes about in-person autos, and I know that some people don't care about them and others love them. You know, put me in the I love them category, because to me, there's the experience that comes along with getting that auto. So, you get the opportunity to meet the player or the celebrity, and that's always something that I've enjoyed. My wife, she's teased me in the past because I do sometimes get a little starstruck, or I kind of stammer over my words, like you guys have seen here. So that's kind of been a little funny aspect to it for me. She says that I turned into a little fangirl, so is what it is. I've gotten a little better with it over the years, but um, so I think that experience, now it comes with risks. I've heard some of the guys say, like, it's dangerous. They say there's that saying, "Don't meet your heroes; they might disappoint you." There's a risk. There's a risk, but I think I go forward with it with a positive sense, and hope that'll never happen. So, um, but like I said, the whole experience of kind of meeting the athlete or the celebrity, getting the autograph, you kind of have that experience or that memory with getting the autograph. So it's not just about, getting the autograph. There's, especially for me, I don't have a purpose when I get autographs. My purpose isn't to resell it. So I'm not looking to make money off of them. They're for me. I just love getting them for myself. So, some people do go for a profit, try to take it and, flip it. Certainly there's that aspect of it, which I'll talk about. So, there's a lot of different variables that go into place, into this subject, I should say. And, you know, you can do a lot of different aspects of, what you want the in-person autos. I feel that most people are getting them for themselves in some regard. You can certainly see different experience where that's not the case, but if you're into it for turning a profit or maybe getting that autograph slabbed and then certified, you can do that. Most places nowadays offer their certifications, their COAs with the certification, and then you can send that in with it. Those are certainly nice to have, and they're helpful, and especially if you do want to send them off for getting slabbed and then getting that DNA certification. And more often than not, they're only like $5, so it's like you may as well at that point. So I've gotten not all of them, but I've gotten some when the places just offered it, where I sent some cards to for, and I'll talk about those when I get to those specific cards. So, you know, for myself, with regards to the slabbing, the DNA certification, for me, I'm not so much into the grading, so that's not something that I've ever done. I don't think so. As I'm saying that, I've never sent a card in and got it all. Never sent in a card that I got autoed and then sent it in for grading and certification. I've never done that. So I know people do it, but I'm not really. I've never had the experience of doing that. That's not the purpose of it for me. I'll get them and protect them, one touches, things like that. But I've never sent them off for PSA certification, DNA certification. So with the whole in-person auto topic, I guess sometimes it does make me sad that many people sometimes poo-poo the in-person auto. Um, if that's in regards to having the confidence in buying a card that has an in-person auto, with just like a COA from like JSA, or maybe even the store that offers, that had the event, the player signing. Sometimes they'll offer them. So I've never really, um, I don't know, I've never really utilized the opportunity to sell them, and I know that some people will buy them. So to me, it's not about that aspect of it, and the experience is kind of a fun event for me. So it makes me enjoy the card, or the item, like a stick or whatever, a jersey. It makes me enjoy them so much more because now I've got a story that goes along with it. Now you've got a memory, in the back of your mind that goes along with it. Like I gathered all my in-person autos to share, and every single one of them, I remember, what happened, where it was from, and there's a couple in here that I sent away for. It was a private signing, but it's still there was my concepts that I'll talk about were all put into place with regards to those cards. So, now having said all that, you might not have thought of this before, but getting into this with the in-person autos, there's a lot to consider. Like I said at the beginning, especially with cards, you definitely want to think of these things before you're standing in front of the athlete and you hand them over your card and they're going to write their name on it. You want to consider all these things because some things can go wrong in that moment, or maybe with the end results. And to be honest, there are times where it's not easy to get a do-over. You're certainly not going to get it in that moment. You might get it down the road, but getting the do-over might not be something you can get done so well. So you want to put in the time and effort to getting it right and minimizing the risks involved. Will you eliminate them entirely? Probably not, but you will absolutely reduce them by thinking about some of these things that you may not have thought about. So I guess the first thing that I'll get into is you want to pick the right card, right? You want one that has an area that will look good with an auto. That's pretty much the easiest concept to talk about. You'll want to know where you want them to sign. And sometimes you might need to communicate that with them, or one of their, as I like to call them, their handlers. You want to communicate with them where you'd like them to sign. A lot of players have been through this so many times, they'll know to ask, or, that's technically a way to kind of start the conversation. You just do it nicely and politely say, hey, so-and-so, if you wouldn't mind, I'd like you to sign, in this spot. And I'll get into an example where I didn't have that opportunity once. So you want to pick the right card that has an area and you think that spot will look good with an auto. You have to pick the right marker color. This is where the guys have called me their marker guy. And what I will say is you need to go out and you need to buy said marker. That is something that some people forget, or they might think like, oh, they have markers there and whatnot. But you got to remember, depending on where you're at in line, you could be the 10th or 15th person in line, or you could be the, some of these 200th to 400th person in line. So if you have the marker, you're better off like that. You're better off having it there. So if you have it and you give it to them, that it's fresh marker, it's got enough ink, it's not dried out, it might not have been through all these autographs. So the other thing, first of all, if you think about it, if you get the marker, now you have the marker too. I mean, that's kind of cool. I mean, I've got markers back here, and I'm going to share them with you guys later, that have been used by Couturier. There's been one that was used by Joel Farabee. So you'll get to have the marker afterwards. So that's kind of a cool plus as well. Like I said, you don't want them signing it, and they're all used to it. I will add that as I'm thinking about it. They're used to people handing them the marker, because like I said, if you are, back in line, you don't want it where they're signing and it's kind of drying out and their autograph's going to look bad. There's nothing worse than getting an autograph where they're signing and you're just watching it, and you're watching the card and they're signing. It's just like a dry ink auto. I've had it happen. You're kind of like cringing and you just want to cry. So you bring it. You have got a fresh one. That's the important thing, to make sure you have it and have everything that goes well. So picking the right color, we'll talk about that, and then buying it and bringing it. Picking the right color is a bit of an art form that I think that's, like I said, why the guys say I'm our marker guy. I put a lot of consideration into it. And what I mean by that is you'll want to consider matching any of the following things. So like the uniform or the team colors, you can choose a marker that might match those, or contrasting to their, away jerseys, because that's white. And then if you take the primary color, whatever it might be, for me, orange, you got, red jerseys, blue jerseys, you want the contrasting color, or I'm sorry, the complementary colors. Let me see if I can quickly share this. I want to pull this up and give you an opportunity to see what I mean. If I can pull this up briefly, where is it? There it is. So with this, the complementary colors, I always called it contrasting because they're opposites. These are good what things to consider of when you are looking for a marker, and maybe you want to go with, like I said, these complementary colors. They're the polar opposite ends. So for me, on some stuff, you'll see, I think it's, yeah, you'll see where on a Flyers card that I have with orange, I went with the blue marker, not just because it was blue, but because it was a good option to utilize. If you're, the green and the red, it's a little touchy, a little dicey there. You don't want it to look like in Christmas trees. Obviously you've got, the Lakers, the old retro LA Kings here. So, these are the options you have. Sometimes you can just kind of go with those options, but I wanted to share that this is an idea as well. You want those complementary colors. So let me just close that down. That's an option to take into mind. Maybe another option when you're picking the marker color is matching some of the foiling on the card, like if it has a silver or gold foil. So if it has that in the borders or anywhere on the card, I have some examples of that. Then go with a silver or a gold marker. Gives it great pop. It matches. You just find the right spot on the card for them to sign those. Another option that I have is matching some other color on the card itself, like in the design of the card or on the font colors of the card. And now I have another picture to share, which has been shown on the Gong Show before. This is Josh's card. I asked him to text me a picture of it, and he sent it over. So let me put this in here. So, oh, that's awfully big. Let me just minimize it a little bit. That didn't help, did it? So this card is Josh's Peter Stastny card, and this is the one that I waited in line for him and got it autographed. But you'll see, when he gives me credit for this. I just kind of confirmed what he was thinking, to be quite honest. When we met up at the expo, he had a giant pack of probably 12 or 15 different Sharpies. And he said to me, he says, I'm looking at maybe this purple red color to match the name written on the card. So he's like, what do you think about that? Because, obviously you might think your first instinct might be maybe go with blue, go with a blue marker here. But, had a nice white space here for a negative space to utilize his to get him to sign in that area. But if you sign blue, it wouldn't be bad. I think it'd be good coloring. It could just, I think that this gives it a good pop. You could have gone yellow if you have a paint pen, but with this being a card from the 80s, I'd probably stay away from that. Maybe go with a light blue. If you think he had a light blue as an option, we talked about that as well with the border. So, matching up some other color on the card that may not be necessarily the player's jersey or the opposite jersey colors. So that's what I mean by that. I think this is probably one of the coolest examples that I've seen of getting a cool auto color that matches something here. It doesn't relate to the player's jerseys, nothing at all, but it looks amazing. So that's what I mean by the option of matching and testing, matching a color, something else that's on the card. So that's a perfect example. The next thing that I want to say and suggest is you will need to test the marker 100%. You're going to test it. Not on the card that you want to sign. Obviously, you want them to sign. But what I will highly recommend you do is buying or finding the most similar looking card that you can get at the cheapest way possible and testing markers on it. Maybe even testing a few different colors on it as well. You're going to want to see what it looks like. And that's the best way that I found to test the examples on there. Now, with testing, let me show another example here that I have. This is from an old Instagram post of mine back before I went and got, let's see here. Yep. So with this, what you'll see here is I wanted to get my Sean Couturier Young Guns card autograph. This is from the same exact year, and in his Young Guns, which I'll show you, he's wearing the white jersey. So I got Matt Reed Young Guns, and I also got just another one of the from the Senators to just try other markers on. So I wanted to see, because with the Couturier card, I was thinking about I was dead set on getting it in orange over the white, and I was testing different areas and seeing how it was going to how the markers were going to react. So this is what I mean by finding yourself a card that is like pretty much. Let me see if I can fix this here. Hang on. There we go. Yay. Finding a card that has good dead on same exact textures, and you want to be able to test the markers. This one I tested out. So this DC was a paint pen, and this is another reason I'll talk about them a little bit later. This is my first time testing and using a paint pen. So the DC was the Deco color orange. This one up top here was this Sharpie paint pen. And then I had a silver one, which was this metallic silver one here. And then I tried blues, blacks, reds, a silver again, and a red over here, just to test it out and see what they look like. So that's just showing you an example of like what I meant by getting a card, the same one. Find one as cheap as you can, because you're going to be writing on it and throwing it away, and testing on it. So that's what I mean by going and testing it out. Get the markers, see how they go, practice on it, because you're going to want to see how the ink reacts to this card surface, and get a good practice on it. Especially if you're going to dip your toe into the paint pen world, you're going to want to practice and see how those react to the card, the surface area. So that's what I mean by those. Let's see. Let's see. As I was saying, the ink will sometimes take differently to the card surface depending on what that surface is. So this will come into play if you're looking to have the auto on, like, say, a canvas card, or maybe even like a clear cut acetate card. I've never done one of those. They're probably a little scary to me. So if you do, you're going to 100% want to test those cards and to see how the ink works and reacts with those surfaces. I don't have them. I couldn't find them to share, but I got 2 cards signed by a Flyers goaltender who shall not be named. That I got them signed. They're both canvas, and I had them sign one with the blue ink and one with the red ink. And I was really excited about the one with the red. I was like, this is going to pop. And I forgot to test the ink on the marker on how it would react with the canvas color. And the red ink wasn't as brilliant red as I expected it, as it was when it was writing it on a white piece of paper. It kind of got dulled a little bit. So I was a little disappointed with that, but so sometimes those cards will have different reactions. So test if you're going to do an in-person auto on a card and you've picked a card, make sure you're testing there how it will react. So that's a big one. There are many different types of markers. Well, by many I mean 2. There's the ink one and there's the paint ones. The ink ones that obviously we all know. There's the Sharpies, we all know them, but there's the metallic Sharpies. You're going with those will handle differently. There's other ones that I have. Let me see what I have here. Actually, I have here's my wad of markers that I have. And every now and again, if you don't use them, obviously you're going to have to replace them and dry out. So you're going to want to test them even though you get them. So you've got what did I say? You got your metallic ones. Let's see here. Is this metallic? This one's not metallic. You've got your, let me just minimize this so I can see what you guys are seeing. All right. You've got your silver metallic Sharpies. Focus in there. It's going to be hard to. You got your metallic Sharpies to get in there. So those are handy. Here's just a gold. I have 2 couple gold ones. This is just a plain old. Oh no, that's a metallic one also. You got your trusty black Sharpies, right? Can't go wrong with those sometimes. Black Sharpies, a little dull. These are Sharpie Extreme. So they are extreme Sharpies, and they are supposedly fade resistant. So that's another option if you're out there looking for markers. You can get these extreme Sharpies, which are fade resistant. So I'll get into those, and then let's see. Did I write it down? Any tips about those? Yep, extreme Sharpies. And then, so yeah, the next one is if you step it up the next level, you go to the paint pens. So, the paint pens that you got here, I haven't used these in a minute. So, these are the first time I tried these was at the probably about 2 years ago. I will say, I will caution you that these do come with a bit of risk. They're a little finicky. You have to learn how to use them. You've got to prime them, which means the tip. Hopefully, I'm not going to spill paint all over myself. The tip retracts to get to absorb ink, so you have to prime the pen. And there's YouTube videos on how to use these, but the pen will retract to absorb the ink that's down in there. So you 100% absolutely must practice with these. They can react differently to surface as well. So most athletes, I will say, have experiences using these, but you may want to take the opportunity to, especially if you're handing them a card and a pen, you're going to hand them with the cap on. And you're going to want to tell them, say, like, just to let you know, this is a paint pen, if you don't mind. Like I said, most of them have seen them and used them, but pre-warning them, it's a courtesy, that they're aware that it's a paint pen. It also can give you an easy icebreaker and a reason to kind of start off talking with them, warning them to be careful about it. You can make a kind of a joke about it. Tell them last thing you want them to do is to put a big old paint splotch on their clothes or on the card, or get it on their hands. So pre-warning them can be a good way to kind of like break the ice with them. And sometimes I've seen some guys, they have like usually like piece of paper or whatever next to them. Sometimes they might even just give it a quick practice on that paper real quick. They might, they've used these. So it's helping them to make the experience better for you, the results better. And more often than not, they will. The other thing that I found is when you give them a paint pen, they do tend to slow down a little bit, and they will take their time to be a little more careful. So that's a big plus that I find as well. So, like I said, make a joke out of it with them. Say like you don't want them getting any ink on their hands, and follow that up at the end with thanks and appreciation for them. So with them as a player or whatever. So that's my advice with the different types of markers that are out there. There's multiple ones. The other plus with the paint pens I'll add, let me put this back, sorry, is they come with some really cool color options. Some of the more obscure colors too. So like there's I've seen yellows, what was it? If for wrestling fans, I've seen Hulk Hogan autographs in that like bright canary yellow. That looks amazing. Hot pink. I've seen that with some Bret Hart autographs, and those are all the paint pens because they're really brilliant colors, and the paint obviously is much better than the ink. There's also like this. I'm infatuated with the color. I'm trying to find a reason to get one. But there's like this, I guess I'll call it like an electric blue. It's kind of somewhere between kind of aqua and like a royal blue. I've seen that on a few times. So they've got a lot of different color varieties. So if you're looking for something obscure or fancy, that type of stuff, you can look into the paint pens as well. So The next tip that I have jotted down is make sure you have a backup color in mind. And this is a newer tip that I've just learned recently. Um, I heard this story, and I don't know the 100% validity of it, but a fellow Flyers fan that I was talking to shared a story where he found where Mitchkov will not sign in-person autographs in blue markers and blue ink. I have never experienced it. Like I said, he shared this story. It seems like it could happen. I'm not sure. He basically said that he said the card companies make me sign in blue, in broken English. So I don't know if that's something that any of the card companies have told players they shouldn't sign in this color. I know that they've been obviously told in certain areas they can't sign a certain card. So maybe you want to have even a backup card in mind as well. But if you're bringing your own marker, you know, have a backup marker in mind as well. You don't want to be stuck like panicking there. So, and he told me, he said, he said we found this out at one time when we met him, and then we were at the carnival, and he goes, and I even tried to pull the old switcheroo on him. I handed him a blue marker with a black cap on top of it, and he pulled the cap off and went to go sign, and he goes, no, I can't sign in blue. So he tried. I got to give him credit for that. I don't know if I would have thought of that. So, but he will sign in silver, so that's good at least. But so have a backup marker in mind. I don't know any more about the concept I just spoke about, like players not being able to sign a certain card. I don't know if that exists too much anymore now with exclusivities of manufacturers. So I'm not sure if that still applies anymore. But maybe have a backup card as well. So so there's that one. That's a newer one that I found out. The other thing is you're going to want to bring some of those test cards, or just bring junk base cards with you. Bring them in your pocket too. Doesn't this one doesn't have to be the exact cards that you tested with. Doesn't have to be the exact match. You can just bring any old junk card and stick it in your pocket. No penny sleeve, no nothing. But the reason I'm saying this is, as you get to be like maybe towards the front of the line, whether you're sixth, fourth, third, whatever. When you're getting close to the front of the line, you're going to want to take the marker out, and then this is especially if it's a paint pen, and this is why I say bring a junk card, because if you're doing it with a paint pen, you're going to want to fold that paper, that card in half, and not get ink on yourself and put it back in your pocket. So you're going to want to get that when you get close to the front of the line. You're going to want to take out that card, take out that pen, and you're going to want to just give a quick scribble on the get the card, get the ink ready on the tip of the pen, so that way when it's your turn, the ink is ready to go. It doesn't start off dry for the athlete signing. You've kind of, like I said, primed it. You've gotten it ready to go. So just give it a brief little squiggle on that junk card. It might even get if it's a paint pen, it might get any blotches out. But for those, you're definitely going to want to prime it with the retraction, and then get the ink in there a couple times, and then get the ink. You don't want a big old blotch to start off with. So prime the card with a junk card out of your pocket, and then put the cap back on. That's important too. You don't want to be standing there for a few extra minutes letting it dry out. So that's the important key. Don't stand there too long with the card open, or with the pen open, where it's going to dry out a little bit. So that's the other tip, is you're going to want to get to the front of the line. So a couple little things there. Another thing that I'll add, at these events, these player signings, many times there's staff there. As I like to say earlier, as I called them handlers. They're always around. They're directing to go over here, go over there, things like that. Sometimes they are not sometimes. They are more often than not, they're extremely helpful, and you will want to pay attention to them initially, but don't let them distract you from the moment that once you're there with the player. Sometimes they could be talking to the player and might be distracting them a little bit. I've had that experience once, and I was a little rude. I wasn't rude. I wanted to be and say something, because the player didn't listen and hear me ask him for my request to sign at a certain spot, and with my marker. So it was kind of a bummer. on a little mini goalie mask. I had a silver marker ready to go, and the person that was talking to the player just kind of handed him the helmet, wasn't paying attention to me, and he signed on the helmet, the mini helmet, with a black marker on the side of it, and I was hoping for it to be a silver marker on top of it. So I could have spoken up, but I didn't, because, like I said, it was one of my first experiences, and it was just one of those things where I didn't feel like I could. But if you have the marker and you're going to go talk to the player, talk to the handler, then that's your icebreaker, and that actually gives you a reason to talk to the player to start off with, no matter who they're talking with somebody. The staff or the handlers, they're usually there. Sometimes they're there for a purpose. They're there to either help the player, the signer, help moving the line along. A lot of times I've seen them be like the person sitting next to the player, and they're the ones that you have to give the item to. So if you want the player to sign a specific area, you'll want to talk to those people, because they'll be very helpful in that situation. If there's that person there, you're going to say like, "Oh, could he sign right here on the card, across the legs, across the middle, whatever, or on the left, and this marker?" So you explain that to them. They're going to pass that along to the player, so they're helpful as well. And then give them the specific pen as well. So in certain situations, they might be the ones that you have to explain this to, which I find if they do their job right, they're very, very helpful. So they could also be the people there that might take a photo of you, with your phone. Sometimes you have to keep this in mind though. They may or may not always get the best shot. So keep that in mind. You might be like, shoot, it was too far away. But if you give them your phone, chances are if it's too far away, you can kind of crop it and make the picture a little smaller, to zoom in a little bit. I've had that experience. So they're helpful in those situations to take a photo for you. Maybe you're the ones taking the photo of the player signing the card. And then if you're allowed, you can hand your phone off to somebody to have the staff take your photo with the player. I've done that as well. I've had taken pictures of the players signing the items that I've given them. So that's kind of everything that I've jotted down and that I practice and think about all leading up to and even getting the autograph. So it's a lot. I mean, it's been it's tried and true. I haven't always been perfect, and that's just to get the autograph. But now, once you have the autograph, your work isn't really done yet. This is where you have to be careful. This is the point where you've got a card exposed with wet ink on it, especially if it's a paint pen. So what you're going to want to do there is you're going to really want to step out of the way, gather your stuff, get out of the way, go walk somewhere else, somewhere close by, and find a place to kind of just stand off to the side, whether it might be a concourse or off to the side. Maybe it's a bookshop or something. I don't know, or a card store, whatever. Go stand somewhere off to the side, find an area, maybe set the card down, and then just kind of let it sit. You might want to blow on it a little bit. Just be very, very careful. You don't want to set it down and blow it on, knock it off the flat surface. So find an area to get out of the way and just let the ink dry. Worst case scenario is, just be careful with the card. Don't drop it. Be very careful. But, the best thing I can say in this point is don't rush the waiting part. Because once you're done with it, and if you don't wait long enough and you go and pop it in the penny sleeve and in the top loader or in the one touch, if that paint pen or that marker, you don't want that smearing at all. And like I said, I would advise this tip of the waiting with the paint pens the most. If you put them in one of these surfaces too soon, like I said, the penny sleeve, the top loader, you might think it's dry. Maybe the top part is dry, but maybe the bottom or the middle or the lower layer isn't dry just yet. So don't rush this part. At the very least, you're going to want to take your time, chill out, relax, whatever. Text your buddies, text your friends. Hey, I just got this auto, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Take a picture. So you don't want to put the card in any of those things too soon. Don't want it to smudge. You don't want it to smear. And like I said, you don't want it sticking to the inside of the surfaces. And because once you do that, once ink or a paint pen sticks to the inside surface, even when you take it off, it could adhere to the inside and chip off. So give yourself time to let the ink dry. That's one of the tips at the end. Don't want to rush that portion of it. So after all that, you're good to go. You can sit back, enjoy the card, enjoy the moment you just had. You just got something signed and autographed by your favorite athlete or celebrity. So that's kind of everything from the beginning to end. If you're going to do some of these things, like I talked about, going and getting a card, I would start months in advance. At least weeks. You want to find a card. Maybe you'll have one. Maybe you won't. You might have to order one real cheap. But give yourself plenty of time. You don't want to be rushing anything, and then have different examples or have different scenarios played out in your mind. So plan for these things, because these things will all happen to you through the process. Like I said, especially when you have the handlers there. They're very helpful. Speaking to them again, like I talked about, but there's times where they're helpful, but you don't want to distract you by telling you go here, there. Focus in on that, maybe that brief conversation with the player. Say whatever you want to say to them. Say what you love about it, whatever, about their style of play. I don't care, but that's focusing on that moment. Don't let somebody distract you and take away from it. So, if you plan to get that item certified by a grading company, like I said, make sure you get the certificate of authenticity. The event organizer probably offers it. Like I said, those are probably, $5. Maybe you can, after that too, invest in something more to protect it. You've got one touches. Those are great. Once it comes back, you can I recommend too, Slab mags. I've used those. The reason I like them is not only do they offer like a cool color match, but they offer UV protection as well from UV light. So that's why I'm kind of a big fan of those for my in-person auto items. So that's kind of the gist. That's kind of the bulk of it. I have some stuff here on the side I want to show you. This is kind of going to be like a little bit of a PC spotlight. I think I've shown some of these cards, but just to show you the kind of like the examples of me practicing a lot of the tips that I've shared, and we'll go from there. So this is going back all the way back to my very, 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 very early days. This one here is from when I was a teenager, and I didn't know any of this stuff. And you'll see how this factors into this. So this is a one touch. So let me just kind of take the cover off to share. And okay, so this is like my favorite Lindros card ever. It's the press conference card, and it's just because it's his first card in a Flyers uniform. But I was so tickled when I got this card, and I'll talk about this in another episode, but that autograph is awful. It's in person, and I met this was like outside of the parking lot when you still had access to players, but didn't know much back then. I had a black marker because that's what you get Sharpies. So early on, doesn't even look like his autograph, but I know it was him. I don't care that it doesn't look like his autograph, because it was in a large crowd of people. So we were all kind of, packed in like, can of sardines or whatever. And so the autograph was maybe a little bit bumped off. So there's that one. This is, again, you want to think about certain things and talk about, make sure you don't let some people distract you. This is that Young Guns Couturier that I talked about, where I had that Matt Reed example. So this one, I didn't think about it initially to tell him exactly where to sign it. Or he got it a little bit too soon. And I didn't talk to him about it, but yeah, there it goes. He signed I wanted it across his legs, because I think the orange would have looked great across the legs, in that white space. But unfortunately, I didn't say something. I didn't know to say something. I didn't think about it at that time. But so he signed up there. So it was a risk I took with the orange marker. But I thought, oh yeah, I'll I'll be able to tell them across the leg area. So this was the paint pen. This was the this I think this is the Sharpie paint pen. So because I felt like the color matched the jersey a little bit more than the other one. The other one was more of a bright orange. Now this is one I got signed that same day, and I was thrilled with. If you look at this one, this is the one I think I showed before, just a couple weeks ago, my Frameworks card. This one, I was thrilled with the results because the marker color I chose on this one was this silver. Oh, I got to get to zoom in and look at the card, not my face. And the coloring, the silver just pops on the black background. So this is probably one of my favorite cards. It's just got a small little picture of him, but the coloring, the silver across of it looks great. So again, this one I thought about. I wasn't sure. I knew this was the one I wanted to get signed, and this is the one I decided and thought about the silver to go across there. So pretty simple. Silver always looks good on black. The card has like a silver, or has the rainbow foiling around the border. I thought that would give it the nice aspect. So you're looking at things like that. This is one I did tell him to sign across his legs, and he did. So this was again paint pen. So there's that. The orange marker across the legs. I think it looks pretty cool. Silver was my backup. I'm pretty happy with the results of this one. I liked where he signed it. It was on a cup card out of 249. So I like that one. So, and I apologize. I probably bore the heck out of you guys with Couturier this, Couturier that, but that's who I'm getting. That's who I'm getting to sign at these in-person sessions. This one's my son's. Let's see here. This one is my son's. We went to see him at a signing at a collectible memorabilia store near us, and this one we were considering silver, but this is where we went with that complementary color option. Obviously, picking blue is not unique, but it does give a good pop to when you have orange. So, it's not unique to me, and it's not like I came up with a great idea. They sign in blue all the time, but seeing it on here, I knew that was going to have good results. Like I said, we considered silver, but he wanted it in blue, and that's where we went with. So there's that one. I love that one. I love the way that turned out for him. And at that same session, I went and got him to sign a card, and this was the first time I personally utilized gold, this is one of his rookie out of 25 Upper Deck the Cup cards. And let me see here. So he signed in gold. Let me go this side and not cover this. So you've got the gold foiling on there, and I kind of was like, I wasn't sure if I wanted to get this card signed. It's a silly picture of him, kind of. It's zoomed in. He's got his teeth is missing. But I was like, this is kind of perfect opportunity. It's out of 25. It has the white negative space. It's the cup. It's got gold. And I was like, I'm going to have him sign this one in gold. So took a shot at this one. Happy with the results. And it went from being one of the cards where I was kind of like, because of his teeth being out, to now it's like a card that I absolutely love. So different example there of how you can, toy around with different colors. Now these next four are probably like my crown jewels, but I didn't get them signed, but in person. But I sent them up to Canada. Frozen Pond. If you don't follow them on social media, I highly recommend that you do. They have hockey player private signings all the time, and you might not be able to go meet the player, but you can certainly send stuff in, and their prices are extremely reasonable. So they had a Lindros one, and I sent in 4 cards. So I went old school on the first 2 because I had them sign 2 cards from the 90s, early 90s. This is probably my favorite Upper Deck card of him when it was his real body and not the Photoshop version of it. So I just went old school, went black. So love that. Knew it was very simple. Didn't want any flair or whatever with this one. So, 90s card, 90s feel, 90s vibes. So just went black with that one. And the other one that I have is his Topps rookie. So this one, same type of scenario. Has the white space. I know he's signed this card probably hundreds of times, thousands of times. Just wanted to be black auto on here. Didn't want to get too fancy. Pretty simple. Pretty simple example. And the next two are, this is Topps rookie, and the next two are ink colors. This is one of his cut base cards, and I asked them this, and I'll explain to this afterwards. They have you can choose, even though you're sending the cards up, you can choose the ink color. I had him sign this one in silver. Let me get because the silver foiling on the card. He signed right on the pants, which worked out great. The ink is a little bit wonky, but it's still it's autograph right across the black part of the pants, and that's actually a reduced autograph space, like for him. I don't know if you can see the shine on it. You can't really, but that's smaller. So he actually changed his writing size to fit it on the pants. So either kudos to him or kudos to the handler, because the staff member, that was great. And now this one, I swear I've got many Lindros cards that I have purchased, and this one, I think for me, kind of, I don't know. I feel this one blows him out of the water just because of what I did with this one. So I bought, this is an Artifacts out of 15, the patch, the dual patch Artifacts card. And this one, I had him sign in gold. So you can see the gold foiling on there. Let me go over this side here. You got the gold foiling, and having him sign that auto above that spot in gold, to me, I was like, this is amazing. I love it. And Frozen Pond did an amazing job, and I'm ecstatic with the results for having sent my cards in and just choosing, just telling them when I sent it up to them, I sent it up with in top loaders in a box, and then like a post-it note on the outside or on the back of the card listing what color ink. And I think they have a form now on their webpage or something like that. So when you're submitting stuff, you can list the ink colors and whatnot. So you can see, like, I sent all these cards same time. I said these two black, one silver, and this one gold. They take great care of you. Take care of your cards, get them back to you. Now you're going to send them up months in advance because they do announce them early. But check them out, guys. They've got some big players, big names. I've seen the Kachuk brothers there, Al McInnes, Paul Coffey's been there, Grant Fuhr's been there. A lot of current players go there. Matthew Nyes was there, I think. So tons of players, tons of celebrities. So check them out. They're a great way to get autographs. And I think all of these, if I remember correctly, were something less, like around 200 Canadian. And that's, you're getting one card. You're paying one card for that. For a Lindros auto, you could pay 200 easily. And to take some cards that I already owned, one of them being an of 15, turning it into a gold autograph. Now it's a 101. So they take great care of you. Check them out. I highly recommend it as a resource to utilize. So that's what I have to say about them. So those are all cards that I thought about, took some care in doing, and getting the process of getting the what ink to use and all that process. So yeah, that's everything I wanted to share on in-person autos. I didn't think I was going to fill an hour's worth, but probably because I just rambled. But so there you go. That's how to get those things done. All those things to consider. If you've got some tips, share them with me. I hope you guys, if you get in-person autos at the expo or whatever, you can use some of these tips and utilize them yourself, and they'll help make a great experience and great end results, honestly. So I'm going to get into my PC spotlight real quick. I know I've just shown a lot of cards. It seems silly this is silly to share another one, but this is a great story that I had to share from this past week. So I know I've shown a lot, and this is kind of cheating the whole segment, but like I said at the beginning of the episode, I kind of promised to share a story. So let me get into that here. Earlier in May, if I remember correctly, it was like May 10th, something like that. I got a message from fellow Instagrammer Ray Bork Card Collection. Now I don't know for sure if it's Dennis or Denis. I think he might be French. I'm not sure. So I apologize if I get it wrong. So I'll just call you Ray Bork Card Collection. He sent me a message that he saw the 24-25 Gold Outburst of Couture get pulled in a break by stack.ca. So, and he sent me a screenshot of it. And he also shared the name of the you could see in the picture the name of the person who I guess had the Flyers team in that break. So he shared that information with me, and he goes, "Are you interested?" I said, "Heck yeah!" I said, "Please." I'm like, share my Instagram name. Here's my email address. I don't know if you're in the break. Maybe you can share it with the breaker, and the breaker can give it to the person. I'm not in the break. I don't want to come out of the blue and be like, hey, you've never heard of me. Can you give my information along? So he said, yeah, I'll look into it. And so I said, I'll keep looking on my end because I had the person's real name. So a couple weeks later, he checked back in with me again, and he said, hey, how'd you make out with that? And I was like, I looked them up on Instagram. I was trolling the Facebook groups, the hockey card groups, more frequently, thinking maybe it might pop up there. But I didn't. I had no luck, and I looked at the person's name, and I did on social medias, on Instagrams and Facebooks. But there was a lot of people with the same name, and I had no idea. Was he Canadian? Was he American? It turns out he's from Canada, but no idea. And I didn't want to send out a ton of creepy messages that would freak people out that they may or may not see, because I know when you sometimes you get a message from somebody that you don't know, it might just sit in the requests bin or whatever. So I was kind of like, all right, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be a creepy guy. So had no luck with that. So anyway, like I said, a couple weeks later, he asked me. I explained all that to him, to Denis. And I just said, and he goes, you know what? He goes, let me take a look. Let me see what I can do. And then I'm not kidding you. About a week and a half later, he sends me a message. So Ray Bork Card Collection. He sends me a message on Instagram, and he goes, hey, here's the guy's email address. He's waiting for you to contact him. And at the same time, in my Instagram, in my DMs, the person who pulled the card sent me a DM as well. So again, I'm apologizing in advance because I have a feeling maybe there's French, but I want to say Lionel DaCosta. But I have a feeling it could be Lionel. I'm not sure. So again, I apologize for if I got it wrong, if I Americanize the name too much. But so he was the person who got the card, or he reached out to me, and so yeah, I ended up getting. We had a great conversation. I have to give credit where credit is due. He was fantastic to talk this through. We were very transparent to one another. I showed him a bunch of screenshots because obviously he's never had a gold outburst. They've only had two. I don't even know if the other one's ever come out or not. I've never seen it. I have a little search for it, but so he's never had one that's sold. And so what I did was we just went into our good old handy dandy Terapeak, and just typed in Upper Deck Gold Outbursts, and I took screenshot after screenshot and then I kind of highlighted, similar players in the same kind of talent level or popularity level as him. And I said, here's what I'm thinking. These are the guys that I would compare him to. What are your thoughts? And he got back and he goes, I agree with you. He goes, yeah, I agree with you. I think that's right where I'm at. So anyway, we got into it. Quick conversation. I think both of us were kind of surprised that it was as easy as it was. But so yeah, that's kind of the gist of it. So here it is. I have the 24-25 gold outburst of Sean Couturier. I'm thrilled with this. Where's the 101? There it is. It's on the side here. It's probably hard to tell, but right up in here, 101. They put it up in there, but I'm tickled with this. I need to wipe this down with a little cloth later, but so that was my exciting week last week. We talked about this from maybe Tuesday or Wednesday, finalized it on Friday maybe because getting back and forth to each other. He shipped it out Saturday, and it arrived at my house on Wednesday from Canada. So I can't thank him enough. So Lionel DaCosta, Lionel, I can't thank you enough. This card will always have that story to go along with it, of the track down to find this card and then get it to me. So I really appreciate him being willing to work on a deal with this. So this is my my PC spotlight of the week. Thanks to him, thanks to Ray Bork Card Collection, Denis, sorry. Thank you to you as well. You were amazing in getting the job done. Without you, this wouldn't have happened. So I wish you all the best hobby karma, like you asked, for your future. So just thanks to both of them for this awesome story of getting this card to me. I couldn't be happier. So I didn't think I was going to get one of them, but we'll see. I still got to go for the first one. I don't know where that's at. Don't even know if it's been pulled. So, but this is awesome to have this one in the collection. So there you have it, everybody. That's kind of the end. Let's wrap it up here. I think we've gone on enough, but shared a lot of cards, a lot of tips. Like I always say, I love to hear your input, your thoughts, your feedback. I really hope this one will give you guys something to think about in your endeavors to getting maybe a player auto. There's a little more to it when you think about it. So I hope I maybe sparked a few thoughts in your mind, or you maybe had a few epiphanies about the process. So yeah, I hope this helps. That's kind of the end. So I guess remember, let's see, you can catch new episodes here on Discord. Look for the Behind the Bench channel here on Discord with the Clover emoji. New episodes will be dropped in there every Tuesday. Like I said, if you have any comments, questions, input, I'd love to hear your experiences with anything related to this topic. I really enjoy the feedback and having continued discussions in Discord. So let's feel free to chat it up in there, and get that input out there. So that was weird. Get that input out there. You're helping your fellow collectors, which is what I hope to do. So thank you very, very much for taking the time out of your day to watch or listen. I genuinely appreciate it. I really, really do, and I hope you enjoy it. As always, like I say, my goal is that many of you will find something of value from these episodes that you can carry on with you in your hobby journey. So until next time, I'm Neil, Irish Flyers Collector, and you've been Behind the Bench.